Welcome, everyone. Guys, we have some new subscribers joining us today. If y'all didn't notice, I started posting on YouTube Shorts, and one of those videos got a lot of views, and now we got like a lot more people joining us. So first, if you're newly subscribed, thanks for subscribing, and I'm happy you're here. And second, if you don't know what I've been doing for the past little bit, I've been reading chapters out of my book, Shelly. I don't have an audiobook. I currently can't afford to produce that. So I'm reading my own chapters until one day I can have someone else read them and do something a little more official. If you're joining us for the first time, I recommend heading to my video where I read chapter 1, and then you can listen to it. You can buy the book, read along, whatever suits you best. We definitely left off on a heavier note last week, so let's see what happens in chapter 8. Chapter 8, Persevering. Caveat, I'm still working on the character voices of dialogue. In their apartment, thinking of their friend's pregnancy announcement and remembering this day, John wrapped around Shelly and sang broken melodies to her. His heart also ached at the loss, the fallen future, but he couldn't afford to ask for comfort at the moment. Instead, he found his solace in surrounding Shelly with the warmth of his arms. This could not sustain him for long, but it would give him what he needed until she could heal. So, he listened and waited until his turn for succor came. When Shelly first miscarried, John had made the mistake of trying to counsel her. He had come up with a list of why she had no reason to feel guilt or shame and why even modern medicine could do little to prevent these incidents. The research helped him untangle some of his own emotional confusion, but this light had not kept away his darkness, let alone do anything for Shelly's. He learned to temporarily embrace his despair while letting Shelly do the same. Watching Amber's pregnancy would provide a new challenge, but Shelly and John knew they had to face it. They didn't know when they would feel ready to try for a baby again, and neither could predict if it would carry to term. They didn't know what their future would be for their family. So, for this moment, before stepping into the inevitable, they stayed on their couch, held each other, and embraced despair. Following the announcement, the rest of the week felt a little emptier. Despite the sorrow in Shelly and John's hearts, the sun still shone through the window. Birds still sang in the trees. People still laughed and carried on conversation with their friends. Such things would usually lift their spirits, but instead it was like they were being given Tylenol for the flu. Rain would have comforted them much more. At least they would not have felt so out of place. Even so, the two adapted to the environment. They'd pass a dog at the park and smile. They'd see flowers on trees and point them out. And in rare instances, someone might say something that made them laugh. Within a couple weeks, they were back into a routine. After months of dealing with a miscarriage, they had learned to rebound quicker. John cooked and Shelly cleaned the dishes, as she had secretly forbidden herself from handling food since the ham and cheese incident. Despite that John had mostly eaten out as a single college student, he had taken in an old roommate's abandoned recipe book, Basic 5-Ingredient Recipes for Beginners, a guide to simply survive. Whether the recipes were easy to make or John had natural cooking abilities, it did not change the outcome. His food tasted delicious. On that Friday, after developing a rhythm, Shelly almost felt delighted playing music on the speaker, waiting for dinner. John hummed while making a meaty, cheesy lasagna. When the lasagna entered the oven, the two spent 30 seconds doing a goofy dance, pointing their fingers. With emotions thin, their energy wore off soon, but the little movement gave them a small release from the sorrow they had. During dinner, John slid his fork into the pasta and engulfed it with ease, puffing his cheeks out. Laughing, they continued a conversation about their favorite food memories. One time when Shelly ate half a jar of peanut butter after sneaking past her babysitter who thought the 8-year-old was sleeping. John eating his first chili dog at the Epworth Park Chautauqua Days and Bethesda Festival. I'm so sorry. Probably butchered that. Shelly's chocolate milk debacle at camp. John beating his older sisters and the twins in a pie eating contest, even though his hands were held behind his back by his dad. Flagged by Shelly, John confessed that he was 12, his brothers were 9, and his sisters were too scared of embarrassing themselves to really try, but he claimed the win nonetheless. Later that evening, Mrs. Lancaster called, surprising Shelly as she exited the conversation with even more joy than before talking to her mother. A rare occasion like this bolstered her soul with extra energy and lightness. Truly, she felt the sun could shine brighter after the rain. However, though the rain had departed, the clouds still hovered. Unlike usual, Amber had not tried to get Shelly to go to the gym with her on the weekend, a failed attempt they both counted on weekly. Amber hadn't called or texted. As wary as reaching out made Shelly feel, not doing so seemed to pose more problems. Amber had said she wanted to let them have space to recover from the food poisoning incident, But Shelly wondered if John and her had not shown enough excitement about their friend's announcement. If she ignored such a grand change in her friends' lives, Shelly felt that they might slip from close to well known and someday once known. After church on Sunday, Shelly waited through 7 rings and then heard Amber's voice. "Hey there, sorry I missed." Shelly hung up. Voicemail. Difficult became inconvenient. Shelly sorted out the thoughts crammed in her head. Should she call again? If she did, should she wait an appropriate amount of time or dial instantaneously? Clicking a button, she called again. The phone let out 3 rings and then the voicemail sounded. Amber had heard the call and chosen not to answer. More thoughts squeezed into the crevices of Shelly's mind. Did Amber not want to talk to her specifically, or was she busy? Or did she not feel like talking? Was she sad or seeking alone time? Maybe she needed a pick-me-up. Maybe her arms couldn't even pick her phone up. What could Shelly do to fulfill her friend's needs? How could she help? "What are you up to?" John asked as he walked into the living room. "I tried to call Amber, but she didn't answer." "Try calling again." "I already called twice," Shelly said, entangling her hands on her lap. "I don't know what to do. You don't think they're upset we didn't celebrate and stuff? She's probably fine, right?" "Probably. We could go over there in person," John suggested. "Maybe return the Gatorade favor. Bring them some brownies." "We can't. It's Sunday." "So?" "We don't buy things on Sunday." "Well, John noticed a change on Shelly's face. "I buy some things."
"Only if it's an emergency."
"But I wasn't talking about buying them. I think we could bake some brownies." Shelly's eyes took one of their greater trips around the room. This man had not learned his lesson. Last time Shelly cooked something, he had spent a few hours puking off and on until he laid limp on the couch. If Amber and her baby ate a dessert made by Shelly...
"You're insane. Don't you think that me cooking something for a pregnant woman is beyond risky? I might kill her."
"Well, that's why I'll supervise," John said. "Or I can do most of the work. But your cooking won't kill anyone, and I want you to see that." Shelly bore through John's facade, trying to break down his confidence in her. His stance did not shake. No matter the excuse or the circumstance, John would force Shelly to confront the baking process. Instead of resisting, she submitted.
"So, you're ready to put a whole family's life on the line?"
"With delicious, not poison-baked goods? Yeah, I am."
"Okay, me too."
Finding a recipe went more smoothly than their discussion about the dessert. A pink tab had stuck out of John's basic recipe book since he first started exploring it. The tab marked the page titled, "The Best 5-Ingredient Brownies." The 5 ingredients were butter, sugar, eggs, flour, and cocoa powder. John had yet to make a dessert, so his lack of supplies surprised him. He couldn't think of how they had used up all their flour, not realizing they had never bought any. Thanks to convenient search engines and their enjoyment of Americanized Mexican food, they found out that their 2 cans of black beans could serve as a substitute. As unsavory as it seemed, the options were limited. John pressed forward, enthused by the experiment. Edible decor redecorated the kitchen counter and Shelly's clothing, and then the brownies slid into the oven. The couple reveled in their potential success, Shelly brushing off her clothes and John discarding his oven mitts. They left the dishes and dustings untouched as they made their way to the back of the apartment, discarded any clothing items that could have been contaminated by baking ingredients, and slipped into their bed. Upon their return, they smelt something familiar and noticed a haze in the air.
"No, not again,"
Shelly yelped. Had she an unknown fate as the charcoal cook?
"I can't believe I forgot to set an alarm,"
Shelly muttered. "Well, you were kind of distracted." John reached his hand toward her and Shelly swatted it away. Resisting any potential predestination, she swept the oven mitts off the floor and flopped the oven door open, the mitts still sliding onto her hands. The tray clambered as she abruptly pulled it up, hitting the oven ceiling and sides before it came out. John stood at the kitchen edge, avoiding the chaos and the damage that could occur, if not to the food, to him. The dessert crashed onto the stovetop, somehow still in one piece. Shelly's breath slowed as she spoke.
"They're only burnt at the edges."
John placed his hand on her shoulder and peered around her. "That's great," he said. "Can I get past you for 1 second?" He angled his body sideways and pressed the off button on the oven. "Just in case we forgot," he said.
"Right. I probably wouldn't, but the brownies aren't burnt."
Shelly looked at them again.
"Mostly."
"They look good enough." With no hesitation, John reclaimed the position as head chef and transferred the brownies to a hot pad, cutting into them and forming symmetrical squares. Without a ruler, each square appeared perfect. Shelly admired John's precision, something she yearned for in her paintings. To make a Virginie portrait. To be a Virginie. Her work took more effort, more time. John used a spatula to lift a brownie out of the glass dish, crumbs falling at the edges. "Should we get out the ice cream?"
"I can't wait that long. Let's just eat it now."
The spatula moved toward Shelly's mouth and then reversed in direction, the brownie halting in midair. Are you sure? John teased. We did just take it out of the oven, and I think this is giving off heat waves. Maybe we should add ice cream for safety reasons. Don't want to burn your mouth. You might want it later. Pressed for time, Shelly ignored his flirting and exhaled loudly. Okay, let's hurry though. I can't give this to Amber without testing it first. The ice cream had yet to soften, but Shelly forced the plastic scoop in nevertheless, bending it at angles that threatened breaking. As she plopped the brownies and ice cream scoops into disposable paper bowls, John rummaged the fridge for toppings. After adding sprinkles and chocolate syrup to his bowl, he glanced to his left and saw Shelly standing stiffly, arms folded. What? You ready, or do you also want to grow a cherry to put on top? Hey now. John raised his hands. I'm just making the best of this experience. I don't need any bite back. Shelly huffed. Sorry. You ready? The spoons exposed the disturbed quality of the dessert first. The baked bar certainly broke apart in an odd way, as if it craved destruction. Then the brownie entered their mouths. Although John put his in first, he had to taste past the ice cream and toppings before he realized the error. Shelly, who ate the brownie alone, tasted the truth first. Her mouth twisted. How did the dessert taste so similar to charcoal chunks? Shelly snatched a piece from the center to avoid the interference of the burnt edges, but it had the same taste. Chewing dissipated her desire to eat, and she threw her face toward the sink, spitting out any remaining brownie. I am the charcoal cook, she thought. They're not good. Shelly faced John. He hummed in response. In confusion, John scooped more of the dessert into his mouth. Even the one in the middle? Yep. John grabbed a centerpiece and tested the taste without ice cream. Wow, that's gross. I know. Burnt. Chewing, John said, It does taste similar to that, but I think our problem was the black beans. Shelly stared. We didn't add any extra to the recipe to compensate for them, John said. It makes sense they're not as sweet. Shelly felt an intellectual decrease by needing John to explain this, but it made sense. She had essentially tried to substitute Monet with Pollock. Both were good, but different. One was sweet and one was, well. Okay, she said. Let's go to the store. We could try making something else, John stopped. Yeah, let's go buy something. They lived within a 10-minute drive to the grocery store, and like most grocers, the staff placed the baked goods near the entryway. Shelly walked around the tables and glanced at each pastry and dessert. Although her thorough attitude would ensure she picked the best dessert for Amber, she did not scrutinize the tables for this reason. She examined each dessert closely because she loved pastries. When she bought the ham during her last grocery trip, she had taken a route that left out this section, knowing it would suck her in. Watching was safe. Eating one. The thought caused her to hunch over and try to convince herself she did not care. She couldn't care. Apple turnovers lured her back in. Next to them, she saw crossover puff pastries with syrupy strawberries peeking through flaky gaps. Her tongue dampened. Something about breakfast pastries appealed tremendously to Shelly. Maybe the morning sugar spike substituted for her lack of coffee drinking. Maybe the industries had perfected addicting substances. The most likely cause was the memory of eating warm cinnamon rolls semi-annually with her family during the special Saturday Global Church broadcast. Many talks from leaders, no arguments from parents, and oven-baked goodies. While Shelly lingered on these pastries, John weaved through all the arrangements in under a minute. He eyed one option on a table in the back and beckoned Shelly to come over. The palm of his hand gestured to his discovery. Brownie bites. Smiling, Shelly softly pushed John. It would make up for their failed brownies. She knew they tasted sweet. The couple had shared a tub for them for their 1-year anniversary picnic, sitting out in the sun amongst the fallen leaves and 50-degree weather. They spent that night hungover from sugar aches, but she enjoyed the earlier memories of laying on the orange and yellow-covered ground, stuffing their faces with the tiny delights. After their shopping trip, the two drove back to their apartment complex. A 10-minute wait passed on their friend's apartment doorstep, a few floors down and a couple doors over. No one came to the door. They left the plastic container of sweets on Amber's front porch, and once they had returned home, Shelly whipped out her phone. Hey, she texted. John and I left a treat on your front porch. We hope you and Lucas enjoy them. We're so excited for you both. Game night soon? A few seconds later, she sent another text. P.S. Don't eat them all in one sitting. It's only slightly worth it. That night, Shelly's phone vibrated. Amber had responded. Shelly, this is so sweet. You're amazing. Sorry we've been MIA. Saw the doctor on Friday. Everything with the baby is great, but saw the fam today and we're stressing. We should hang soon. Glad to have an answer to the cause of her friend's silence, Shelly's worries descended. She would see when Amber could meet up next and figure out what her friend had stressed. What had her friend stressed. In bed, Shelly and John slept close. John had already fallen asleep by the time Shelly slipped into her dreams. Shelly pours milk. It plops, glops, drops in. You're doing it wrong. Shelly doesn't turn because she needs to keep her eyes on the milk. She doesn't need to move her eyes to know what her mom looks like. Mrs. Lancaster is thin-lipped, with her over-dyed blonde hair pulling into a tight ponytail. Her thin, once over-plucked eyebrows arch. Do it like this. Orange juice pours out now, but Shelly doesn't notice the change. She doesn't notice that the cup isn't filling. I've got it, Mom. You need to do it like this. Mrs. Lancaster doesn't move. The orange juice is milk again, but this time the cup fills. Shelly focuses, but in the background she hears, "You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong." The milk overflows. As usual, all the seats on the bus are filled. Loads of teenagers talk and laugh. Even more stare at their phones, playing music, scrolling through social media, video gaming, all the normal day-to-day activities for high schoolers. Shelly sits in the back and feels like a splinter that crammed itself between closely grouped human flesh. An irritant. The middleman between Owen and the random girl, Jean Cespas. But in Shelly's case, the annoyance is necessary. If she sat in the front seats, she'd get hit by each person entering and exiting. Besides, Owen always sat in the back, though Shelly prefers to sit in the middle. They appear in the middle of the bus. Blood rushes through her veins. Her mind says hurry before you forget. She can't remember what she can't forget, but she knows she needs to do something. She needs to renew, write, or she needs to get rid of something. Write or get rid of. Her unlocked phone screen lights up the shadows of her face. Staring ahead, she enters the password for a note. This list. She needs to do something with this list. Why does she still have it? Hadn't she? Keeping it didn't result in anything anyway. Yet, she still adds to it as consistently as an accountant tallying bank deposits. Shelly once had an odd instructor with some metaphor for banks. Why do I keep this? Shelly says. What? Owen's looking at her. She hadn't said anything. She had thought that, right? What's that? Owen asked Shelly, breaking her train of thought. She turns her phone over and lays the screen on her lap. High school buses are too cramped. What's what? Shelly says. What's what? Come on. What was on your phone? Doesn't matter. You're being pushy today. She stares down her amateur football player friend. Thank goodness he has a kind disposition. The baby fat still left on him makes his outside appearance look like a playground bully. Even in high school, some students still instinctively dodge him in the hallways. Those who meet him now know he's nice, even if he does pester a lot. Shelly, I'm bored. Just let me look. Shelly's forehead perspires and her hairline dampens. She prays and no one notices. She whips her head around to check. Everyone has stopped talking. They're looking straight ahead. What's that? Owen says. Why don't you show me? Shelly can't remember why, but she would not show anyone that list. The list needs to stay hidden, perhaps forever. No. Owen eyes her. Come on. I'm not unlocking my phone again, Owen. I don't want to talk about it. Besides, we're here. Their bus glides past other cars as fast as a falcon diving to its landing. Owen and Shelly stand outside the bus, in front of the back entrance of their towering red brick high school. Owen silent. No more questions. Irritation brims in Shelly. They're outside. The crowd of students disappears. Her flaming annoyance reduces to a simmer. Shelly walks to the back clear door, but she can't see inside. She only sees herself and Owen walking behind Shelly, 2 steps faster than his usual lackadaisical glide. Glancing behind her, she sees Owen's gone. Before she opens the door, Shelly stops and pulls out her phone again. The list appears. What do I need to do? She thinks. Owen snatches the phone and with a gust of air, brushes past Shelly. All the students reappear, blocking her way. Making his way past the back entrance, Owen heads to the side of the building. If he walks to the field, Shelly could catch him. Inside the school, she would lose him. There are too many spots to hide in that building. Corners, classrooms, and boys' bathrooms. She needs to catch up. Owen! End of chapter! I'm gonna bookmark it for my first time. Thanks for joining me for chapter 8. If you liked this video, like. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. And I hope y'all have a good rest of your day. Bye!